Thank you all for joining my that lost human connection. I am really excited today, as today is a very special day. We have our first guest. I'm a big fan of her. It's an honor to have her on the show. She's an IITian from Mumbai. She's a technologist who worked at MIT and Tufts, a former executive director at ECAL. We all know what ECAL is, but for the folks who doesn't know what ECAL is a nonprofit that serves children through digital literacy and basic education across India and Nepal, serving millions of children. And she has done a phenomenal job, like beyond inspiring. And she's now continues her journey to inspire others through to now she's inspiring young generation through her Insta handle called That Hindu Grandma, and she's growing like a
The
wild.
Hindu grandma, the Hindu
The
grandma.
Hindu grandma, yeah. I'm like beyond excited to have her on our show, and I love her diversity. She brings technology, community, and tradition all together to help the community, which is a rare combination. Without any further delay, I would like to introduce Mrs. Ranjani Sehgalji. Ranjani Sehgalji, it's an honor to have you on our show. Really excited to learn from you, learn about you. So,
The pleasure is all mine. I am so honored and humbled that, first of all, I love the name of your show. It's a beautiful one, The Lost Human Connection. I think in this world of technology, that's something that we really need to, explore a little bit. So thank you. Thank you for making me a guest on your show.
thank you. It's an absolute honor. So now that you've been inspiring all your life and you're still continuing to do that, so who's your inspiration? Like what keeps you going when life happens? Because sometimes, life is not constant. So who's your inspiration and what got you involved with ECOL? Tell us about your journey.
Sure, sure. I think, like many, many people, my primary inspiration is my father. So, my father, especially for Ekal, my father came from a small village. His parents were not literate, and he went to a small village school. At that time, it was started in Travancore. It was a Kerala, it preceded Kerala, and Travancore was a pioneer in introducing compulsory primary education, and that's why Kerala is very literate today. It was
Right.
introduced by actually Sethu Lakshmi Bai, the queen, because they had the regent queen in Kerala. And thanks to that, there was a school in his village, and he went there. And this person who came from a very poor family with not very good health, even, and with very little resources from an illiterate father, went on to becoming the founding member of IIT Bombay. He was an amazing individual and went to become, he retired as the dean at IIT. So when I saw that, I mean, that somebody, who had really no support at home, but yet his brilliance was unlocked because there was this one school in his village. So as I grew up, my father, of course, beyond just being a wonderful, technologist, he was a brilliant man, obviously, but he was also very into the arts and culture. He was a famous Tamil writer.
Oh,
He
wow.
could do, he was just, I mean, it was incredible. And so everything that I did in my life, I think I owe it to him. And seeing the impact that the village school had on his life, I really felt very closely attracted to Ekal Vidyalaya, because this is what we do. We go into rural, remote villages and run single teacher schools. He started like that in a primary single teacher school. And the hope is that maybe we are unlocking the potential of brilliant people like my father, who could not have made it to where they were, had it not been for that school. And if my father was not there, I would not be here as well. So it's a generational impact, and that is what inspired me to join ACL, support ACL, and keep it going. Because literacy, that's all you need. You don't need anything else. You open the mind, the rest will follow.
Absolutely. Wow, so inspiring. I was like getting goosebumps and I cannot imagine your father going through that hardship to end up in being a dean of the IIT. Oh my God. Like, wow. You
Yes.
should write a book about it. Like,
Oh,
seriously.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously, yes.
Yeah.
Very, very inspirational. I mean, I just told you a little bit about him, but there's so much more that is so inspirational about him.
Wow. And you could carry on his legacy, I would say. That is even like, you have helped so many around New England. I've seen it. I mean, so yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
proud. Like, yeah,
Thank
so
you. I
inspired.
wouldn't say that I'm anywhere close to what he was. I mean, he was a legend, and his talent. Obviously, I don't have that same amount of brilliance that he did, but at least he did inspire me to do what I could, to help anybody that I can. And that is something at least I have attempted to do in my own small way. God is always there, as my father used to say. It's God's doing, we are nimitta matra, the instrument, but feel very honored that I have had small opportunity to make some difference in some people's lives.
Absolutely. So that's what we say, right? The rippling effect of kindness. Your father started it. Now you're inspiring us all. So I hope it goes on and on. Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
so. I
Yeah.
hope so. Yes.
Yeah. So now I want to kind of go into a bit of a tradition side of it. Now we all live in USA. Sometimes it gets very challenging to, stick to your tradition, especially as personally as a mother of two. One of the challenges I faced, still I'm facing, is passing on the tradition to my kids, right, young generation. So what have you learned, like if what happens if the tradition is not passed down to the younger generation? What will be the impact? What do you think?
Yeah, I think living in the United States, you can see the impact, right? Almost most of United States citizens are either first or immigrants of some kind. They have come
Right.
here maybe 100 years ago, or recent past, like we did. So if you do not feel connected to a tradition, you can feel lost. I remember the beautiful words of Prema Pandurangji. She was a very famous spiritual master, and she would say, that if you don't have a root, there is no tree for the bird to nest, and hence, without that tree, the bird cannot nest, the bird cannot fly. So, before flying, you must be rooted. And unless, I mean, this has been proven time and again that people who feel connected, people who feel connected to traditions, we know, if we know where we came from, we can know where we want to go. And so I feel it's very, very important to be connected. And I think science supports this very much, that, knowing your roots, being connected to your roots, and keeping up with those traditions that mean a lot to your family. Family itself, as you know, makes a huge difference in shaping a child, in ensuring success of a child. I mean, if I look at my father, yes, he had nothing else, but his mother was very loving and took very good care of him, and that made all the difference in the world. So being connected to your tradition, and we all come from this tradition, at least as Indians, that where we value education. If you look at the very ancient writings, one of the most important thing they say is always focus on education. And that itself, to have that as your root, can allow you to fly. As we all know, in America, we are here because we
Right.
got on that boat that was called education.
Right.
And so it's very important to be connected to your traditions and keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. It's just sometimes challenging, but like you said, it's important to keep trying and keep close
Yeah.
to, yeah, yeah,
And I would say challenging. So I think the best way to keep the tradition going is not by telling your child what to do, but by doing it. That is
yeah.
the very important thing. And so if you, keep your traditions going by yourself, just by watching you, I'm seeing my granddaughter now, I do puja at home. She does puja at home. If I
Oh,
tell
goodness.
her,
Yeah,
come and do it, it's not going to work, and I'm
right.
seeing she's copying so many of my actions. So I mean, this is just one thing, but
Yeah.
everything, tradition is not just about puja or our rituals. Tradition is about your values, and whatever values you reflect, your child will surely take that on.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take that point. I still have a young daughter, so maybe I should do more of that. Yeah, thank you. I'll take that as advice.
Sure, sure, sure.
So now that, like spirituality, like I'll come to the spirituality part, but a few months back, I was talking to a friend of mine. She's very close, and she was going through some tough times. So we were talking, like, what can we do and why she's in this place, why, what happened, and how can we help her coming out of the situation. So as we were talking, like you brought a great point, right? You said family plays a great role. So no matter what happens, I feel like family, faith, and culture These are the three things that keeps us rooted. But now I would love to dig into this and ask you, like, or maybe learn from you what they mean to you personally and how do you strike the balance?
Yeah, strike a balance, I don't know, but I would
Yeah.
say this that family is, of course, key to my life. My husband, as I told you, my father. I mean, it is he who shaped who I am throughout my life. My mother has supported me incredibly. My husband, I mean, if you look at it, it is my husband's support that allowed me to do all crazy things in my life. And now it's my children, my grandchildren. Everybody is so important to me. Bring that love so that I can do things the way I can. Faith again is so important because life is going to, as you rightly said, your friend, I'm sorry she went through stuff or he went through stuff, but everybody goes through stuff. There is nobody in this world who hasn't encountered one or the other problem in life. And when that happens, if you do not have something to hold on to, because you will feel like you're tossed around in an ocean at that time. So you need an anchor. And that anchor has to be, it's called faith in English, but it is really dharma. It is really that which dhareti iti dharma, that which holds you together. That knowledge, that assurance that there is someone there who will take care of you, those kinds of things come in very, very handy. We all know that we are going to be going up and down, and
Yeah.
also teaching us what you said, I think balance, teaching us how to remain grounded, rooted. No matter, some days, maybe, people are saying you're the greatest thing ever. Yet other days, they throw you into the garbage can.
Yeah.
How do you stay samatva? How do you say balanced in that situation? Is, I think, faith comes in very importantly. And culture, right? Culture is what gives you those rituals that can then take you to that faith or to whatever it is that we aspire for. So, for example, people often ask, should I do a puja, right? Will God only react if I do, the pujas and do all of that, if I go to temples? God is not, worried about what you do, but
Right.
your inside will shape. When you go to a temple, you are going to get the positive energies. And when you do those rituals, you will be reminded that there is somebody there. So that when you go into that trouble, suddenly so as I always like to say, when you're in trouble, you're not going to go to a random person on the street. You're going to go to a friend, your family, and making the divine
Yeah.
your friend, your family can come only through doing rituals, only to getting to know this person. How did I become your friend? I talk to you. I maybe have a chai with you. So
Right.
those things are very important. Culture really helps shape that. Culture is what gives you that. So I think all three are very important. Most important is the reason they are important is they allow you to live a happy life, which is the most important thing, and really fly.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. You are saying my brain just popped up. Like, you know how you said you go to a temple to cleanse your mind, right? And to have good thoughts and you do the action. That's yeah. And on the culture part, I want to bring up one thing, right? So you are a classical dancer. I know you had your dance school. I also started when I was little. I did my classical training for a few years, but now again I'm learning with my daughter, and
Okay.
it's amazing. I feel like when you do classical dance, and you could add more to it. It's like a way you are connecting with God, like
Of
you
course.
converse with God. So, what was your experience when you were like dancing, or you had your dance school?
Oh my God, it was the greatest experience of my life. I think everything I have done has brought me closer to God. I mean, it just so happens that way. And I will say this, I always used to tell my students, that the reason to dance is, not all of us might become professional dancers, and
Right.
more power to anybody who wants to take that on as a career. But for 95% of the people, especially for children growing up in the United States, it's a great way to establish deep connections with the divine and with our culture. So I remember always when I was doing dance in India, I will say, oh, Krishna was carrying a pot over his head. But when you say that to children here, they don't know how do you carry a pot over your head. Then
Yeah.
you actually put the pot on your head and you're walking around. So that brings those kind of muscle memories and that kind of a physical connection to
Mhm.
the divine. And I always feel this when you do prayer. I know the ISKCON movement does it a lot, which is if you sing bhajans, that's great. If your mind, meditation, you're doing, mind is involved. But when you dance, your entire body is involved. You're part of that whole divinity. You are completely involved. There's nothing that is you. It's all given to the divine. So the dance has been a very, very beautiful part. And the other, if you don't take the divinity out of it, Indian classical dance is very much about expressing emotions. So it is a beautiful way to control your emotions and also, understand how emotions work. For example, I often was given the role for whatever reason of a negative character. When a negative character especially has a lot of nuanced emotions, they are, for example, take Ravana, the greatest, he was so
Right.
talented, and yet power hungry. He did negative things. It was not that he didn't know what to do and what not to do. And so if you become that, you can express your anger, you can understand how to control it, and also know the negative effects of all of that. So I think it's a way to regulate your emotions. I think it's a way to connect to the divine. And of course, I think for me, it was the most happy experience. When you dance, I mean, there's nothing greater for me, because I loved it so much. At that moment, I forgot everything else. And it gave a beautiful high and brought pleasure to the audience as well. So I think
Yeah.
it's the most beautiful thing. So I always say everybody should dance. Everybody does dance, right? It's
Yeah.
just the question of, when you do classical dance, there's more to it than just movement. So.
Yeah, I can see the excitement in you, and you look so happy. Honestly, you should go back to dancing. I'm sure, like at least here, Olivia. Remember,
Well, I would
like,
say this. I'm always dancing. I mean, I may not be
yeah,
dancing in
yeah,
productions, but I'm always dancing. I think
yeah.
there's no day that goes by without me
Without
dancing.
dancing, yeah, I
Yeah,
can feel it, and me too. Like when if you play some music in the middle of the night, I don't care. I will dance. Like you said, every part of your body is like you surrender to God, and you just like do it for, yeah.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
so true. Yeah. Now I'll come to another kind of more spiritual sides. Now lately I have been starting my spiritual journey. I can say like I started reading stuff online, but and the more I read, right, I started to realize that spiritualism to a point has been miscommunicated or misunderstood until now. Like even when I was a kid, until now, sometimes still you do things for the sake of it, like without knowing the why. And once you become a mom, even though my son is 19, but when you ask them to do this and that, they always ask why, right? And I don't have a reason because I didn't know, I just did it. So for me to kind of go into that, I started exploring, and I felt that they tell kind of powerful life stories as well, like spiritualism. So would you like tell us what you think about it? Do you think like how spirituality plays in life lessons, and how can we kind of use in a real life situation?
Of course, very beautiful points you brought up. The actually one of my motivation to start the Hindu grammar was exactly this: that people did not know the why, and for many reasons, right? Historically, we were cut off from our own roots in India, right? I mean, I was very fortunate that I studied Sanskrit very randomly in school without
Wow.
my
Okay. Yeah.
without my seeking it out. It was a Kendriya Vidyalaya. They just had the curriculum, but that made such a big difference. And that opportunity did not come to many because I think many people went to English medium, Catholic, or Christian schools where and even in other schools, Sanskrit
Correct.
was not taught,
Yeah.
and scriptural thoughts were not given, to anybody. But if you look at Hindu thought as a whole, we always encourage people to ask why. This Sanatana Dharma versus Abrahamic religion, we are told we must question. Whether look at the Bhagavad Gita, right? It's question and answers. That's it. If you look at anything, it is
Yeah.
question and answers. So, absolutely, you must ask the why. And unfortunately, because people like if I don't know the why, we just say, shut up and do it, right?
You're
So,
right. Yeah.
yeah. So, and I would suggest to all parents, don't ever say that. You can always say, I don't know why, but I know it's meaningful. And
Yeah.
then you can, like you said, you can go investigate. And, if you have a question about a ritual, please DM me. I would be
You're
happy
right.
to
Okay.
make a reel on it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's how this whole, Hindu grandma came to be. So, the other important thing is that, Hindu Dharma particularly, has two aspects to it. One is the deeply philosophical part of things, and the other is how to live life. I mean, everybody has to talk about how to live life.
Right.
The how to live life does come out of the philosophy, of course. The Vedic scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, all of these tell you, they're all, messages for life. You take any verse from the Bhagavad Gita, it's a message for life. But it's not easy to understand. And in fact, if you look at the Nati Shastra, that's what they say. They say that the people went to Brahma and said, nobody is able to understand the Vedas, and that's why they're staying away from it. And Brahma said, okay, let's create something new called the Natya Veda, which is a way to really convey the message appropriately. And that's how dance and music and storytelling came into being. And that's why storytelling is a very important part of our tradition. The Puranas, unlike other religions, it is in fact an important part of our scriptural group. The Itihasas and Puranas are not separate from our scriptural group, and they are beautiful because they are case studies, unlike the Bhagavad Gita or other things which tell you the deep philosophy of something. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and in fact they are case studies because they based on real events. And even the Puranic stories are supposedly based on events that happened a very long time ago. We don't know when they happened. They always say it's Pura Nava, right? Like it's an old story and it's always new every minute because you will find your life story in there. So I think very importantly, and again, for where your mind is, for some people, those spiritual stories, those spiritual texts like the Bhagavad Gita, they can understand it, maybe because where they are spiritually. But for 99% of us, we have to start with the storytelling. And I would really recommend that this is a good way for your children to connect to it too. I mean, the power of the Ramayana always is, it amazes me because my 4-year-old granddaughter, who is not from India, doesn't know much about India, is so drawn to the Ramayana. So these stories are timeless and they give you life lessons like, you can absolutely imagine. I mean, I remember, perhaps some of you know that, my husband was really during COVID, he was intubated for 40 days. It was a time when there was no medicine.
Wow.
What do I do?
Okay.
And I had to
Yeah.
sit alone in my house. And then I saw in the Ramayana, there was Sita sitting under the Ashok Vatika all by herself, not knowing that Rama will come. And that gives you hope that she didn't give up, right? So if I don't give up hope, Rama will come, God will come and help us. So these are all moments, I mean, there are so many aspects. I mean, this was a personal thing that I said, but there are so many thoughts in here that can really make a big difference.
Yeah, I'm not saying literally getting goosebumps. I can't even speak. Like, really, when you say like how Sita was in, like, that gives you that hope and the faith that keep going. And yeah, oh my God, I'm like, yeah, it's a beyond surreal moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
it's, yeah. I totally lost my chain of thoughts. That story touched me so deeply,
No,
but yeah,
I
yeah,
know. No, no,
but
no.
yeah. So
But
like,
there will be a story in your life that, you will find.
yeah, that is why, like you said, a life is never constant. You have to hit the peaks and valleys. And that's why your turning point. You choose spirituality, or it's up to you, right? Then you start reading. Yeah. But
Everything
still,
is spiritual. Everybody has some path, and that's
yeah,
what Hinduism always says. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. How your path is, that's up to you. But certainly there is much tools
yeah.
in our faith that can help anybody. It's whatever your faith. There is a sacred path available to you to find happiness.
Fine, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So on that same topic, I want to stretch a bit. Even though, I try to practice my spiritualism, and then you kind of you meditate, you know the energy, right? Like good energy, bad energy. And as human, we are tribal animals. Like we have to see people, meet people. But at times, what happens is, let's say if you sense some negative energy from people that you know closely, or someone, let's say you're meeting for a few times. So how do you like deal with the negativity? And
Very
how do
good
you
point.
bring
Okay.
spiritualism into that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the most important words I've always learned is that, the world, there's always two arrows that come at you. One is the arrow that the world throws at you, right? And this could include negativity from people, situations. Like I said, COVID happened, right? Like there's nothing I could do about it. The other arrow is the one you throw at yourself. You are like, oh my God, I'm suffering because of outside. Now, spirituality allows you to remove that second arrow. Very important. Nobody can make you happy or sad. It is you who make yourself happy or sad. Understand that. Understand who you are and keep that connection to the divine. So, supposing somebody, there's a big question always that comes, right? Somebody is very negative to you. First of all, remove yourself if you can from that negativity,
Yeah.
but don't reflect that negativity back, to say XYZ is terrible. Don't even think about that. If you can replace in your mind that negative thoughts with positive thoughts, right? Like I think the other beautiful things I've seen is there's always two wolves in your mind. One is the positive wolf, one is the negative wolf. Whichever you feed,
It,
that's the wolf that will come up. So I think at the very core of everything, remember, things will change. This person who is negative to you today could be positive tomorrow. Who
right.
knows, right? Who knows where? And they are negative to you not because of you. They are negative because they are going through stuff in their life, right? I mean, it is not you. Remember that. Very, very
Yeah.
important to remember that people who are, being negative to you are not
You.
affecting you. You are the Atman. You are happy,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but definitely remove yourself from that negativity and fill yourself with positivity. And you will see the moment you start doing it, you will start attracting positive people around you. It's very natural, at least
Yeah.
I have seen that happen a lot. But again, do not ever criticize or, and I think gossip is terrible,
I,
really
mm.
stay away from that, don't. I
I
always,
love that.
the famous story from Ramayana, right? Like the Dhobi, everybody's like, oh my God, why did somebody listen to Dhobi? It's not, why Rama did. No, no, you are not Rama. You are the Dhobi.
Yeah.
Don't go about talking gossip everywhere and stay away from negativity. You will be positive always.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep the not let the external factor bother you. You
Absolutely.
get, yeah, like yeah, get yourself out from the negative. Yeah, that
Exactly.
makes
And
sense.
it'll be
Yeah.
easy if you keep having a practice, whether
Yeah.
it's meditation, whether it is any practice. I mean, there are so many practices in the world, whatever appeals to you, and practice it. It's a
Yeah.
practice, right? If you keep doing it every day, when that negativity happens, you'll be like, okay, I
Yeah.
can just go here.
How to change the direction of negativity. Yeah,
Exactly,
right. Yeah,
exactly,
exactly. Yeah,
exactly,
that's
exactly.
and I have to ask this. That's a question from my son. He's becoming very kind of believing in Hinduism and its values, and I'm so glad that he's. I didn't even tell him, but he's reading stuff. So, like you said, that you have to be self-aware. So, how do you define ego versus self-awareness? So, I'll just quickly, personally, I think you have to keep your self-aware in check. Like, I know what you are. I know what I am. No one can make me feel less or more, but sometimes when things don't work in favor of you, your self-awareness is kind of dicey. As soon as the self-awareness is low, I feel like sometimes ego acts up, right? So how do you define and how do you keep a
Yeah.
balance?
I mean, these are all words. I mean, so
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that it's these are English words, okay? But I will say this, right? When you think about ego, right? Like, so there is an Atman, so that is the you. And that's what is always happy, they say, right? Like it's once you are aware of who that is, you're always happy. The part that once you start associating it with, my intelligence, I am the doer. Once you start thinking like that, then you'll be in trouble, right? Because once I am the doer, then when things go wrong, it's my fault, right? So then it becomes very difficult to manage that. But if you could just understand that you are the unchanging inside, you just keep that and you have the confidence. You are the unchanging inside. You have talents. You have your karmas, right? You have been given certain resources, and that resources is not just money, right? It's your strength, your talents, everything that comes with you, somehow there's a bank balance of things that have come to you. And also that bank balance brings what are the things that can come that you will be able to achieve in this lifetime. There is a little bit of a bank balance of that as well in there. And once you understand that, so for example, you study very hard for an exam and you go, why didn't I come first? So whatever it is, right? Because there are many things that happened. So definitely, look at that situation and see what could I have done better. That's always something that's very important, right? Could I have studied differently? Don't say it was because of other things, and it might be because of other things, right? And
Yeah.
like I said, the world always throws arrows at you,
Yeah.
but you need to find ways to take off your own arrow and don't throw arrows at yourself. And definitely, the less you think you are the doer, but rather leave it. At least that's my way of looking at things. If you are nimitta matra, you are an instrument,
Mhm.
life will be easier. At least I find that way. So
No, that's so true. And I'm already learning so much, like honestly enlightening. So that's amazing. I'm sure our audience is also learning a lot. Now we are almost coming to an end of our episode. So I want to ask few fun questions about Ranjani
sure.
ji, right? Yeah. So what is your comfort food? When you're hungry, what's the first food you'd like to eat?
Oh my God. I would say yogurt rice.
Okay, yeah. For me, a dal bhat, right? We say dal rice. You can just eat,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
And then favorite movie. Do you have any
Mm.
movie all-time favorite?
Oh, very favorite movie, which is nobody probably will know it. It's an old Tamil movie called Tillana Mohanambal. So it's about this dancer and this musician, and I love that movie.
Really?
It's
What
been a
is it again?
staple.
Till I can,
It's
yeah.
Tillana Mohanambal,
Okay, I'm
and
gonna look it up though. Yeah, yeah,
yes, please,
yeah,
please,
yeah.
Padmini,
And your favorite piece of clothing? I want to guess. Is it sari? Look at your
Of
saris,
course,
right? Yeah, of course. Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. And what is your favorite music genre? Like, I know you're into classical, but any particular genre you listen to?
I do like South Indian classical a lot because
Yeah.
I'm most familiar with it.
Okay.
I like all music, I should say. I'm pretty, but of all of them, yes, absolutely. South Indian classical is what is my go-to. Yeah.
Okay. And the last question is, when will you go back to dancing? You
I
should.
have to be
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to be very clear. I never left dancing.
Okay.
You must
Okay.
see
Yeah.
me anywhere in a party or at the temple. I'm like, music starts, I'm dancing. But whether I will do a show, I don't know that. And I
Yeah.
will think about it. I mean, I teach my granddaughter, so that's what I do. But what I will do, show and all takes a little bit of a focus and things. Who knows, if the great Lord wills, that's when you'll see me on stage.
Yeah. I'm waiting for that day. Yeah. Honestly. Yeah. But anyways, thank you so much, Ranjani ji. It was an honor. We learned so much. And
My
I'm sure our audience also learned a lot. Thank you for your time. Uh,
you. You're doing such a beautiful job. I love the background. Doing interviews is not trivial. So I love the way you have organized this. Much power to you. And I look forward to all
Thank
of
you.
your other guests. I am sure
Absolutely.
is
And
going
I'm
to be
looking forward
exciting.
for more conversation because learn so much from you. Yeah. Thank you so much. And to my audience, please do subscribe me on Spotify at That Lost Human Connection. Take care, guys. See you next week. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye.